Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and in this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about Kiev. We received additional details about corruption scandal. Power could crumble. Ukraine's former deputy prime minister is ready to make a deal and hand over all of Zelenskyy's accomplices in the Energoatom embezzlement case. This is reported by Ukrainian deputy Goncharenko. This is the key problem facing Bankova now. They don't know what to do or how to act in this scenario. If this happens, the entire government in the country will crumble. Chernyshev is not just Zelensky's friend, but his godfather, and he definitely knows everything, he writes. The mood at Bankova is bad. They understand that only 20% of the tapes have been released. All hope is on Zelensky's success. One of the next suspects could be National Security and Defense Council Security Umerov, Goncharenko claims. It is noteworthy that just a few hours ago Umerov rushed to Istanbul to negotiate a prisoner exchange. So once again I would like to remind you that yesterday the investigators came to the home of the Zelensky's closest associates Mindich, but a few hours before investigators came to his apartments he fled to Israel. Today we got report that another person of inner circle of Zelensky, Rustam Umerov left Ukraine as well, also several hours before the investigators came to his house. So as we can see, Zelensky is trying to clear the space and to remove every single person who can make lots of problems to him from the territory of Ukraine. Furthermore, we got report that 4 Ukrainian ministers implicated in energy corruption scandal. Raids are targeting Justice Minister Galushenko, a former energy minister. This scandal also reportedly involves the current energy minister Grenchuk. So the situation is critical for Zelensky, and obviously this is not like an attempt to remove him from his position. This is obviously an attempt to force Ukraine to start negotiation process with the Russian Federation and to accept the Russian demands, or at least to force Zelensky to resign from his position and to start presidential elections, the elections of president or something like this. Furthermore, during the previous days, we received a very interesting article published by Foreign Affairs. Russia plans to seize Ukraine in 3 stages. Foreign Affairs. Putin allegedly seeks to hold on to new regions and occupy Kharkiv, Mykolaiv and Odessa, cutting Ukraine off from the Black Sea. The second stage involves economic and political pressure with the threat of a new invasion. In the third stage, Ukraine must enter Russia's orbit like Belarus. So this is the situation, and this is the reality we are living in. Anyway, let's discuss the situation on the ground and let's understand whether the Russians are able to achieve these goals or not. And first, let's talk about the Odessa region. According to information we have, Russians launched massive drone attack across the Odessa region. Russian military forces launched a raid on the port of Odessa using Geranium drones. Lots of positions were damaged and destroyed by the Russian Federation. Most likely, the Russians were attacking vessels or probably port infrastructure. Furthermore, according to information we have, during the previous 24 hours, the president of Ukraine, Zelenskyy, came to Kherson. So he made a video on the entrance to the city. Maybe the Russians attacked the city of Odessa because Zelenskyy was somewhere nearby. Maybe this is just something like a signal to Zelenskyy that he shouldn't go to the city of Kherson because it is very dangerous for him. Now let's talk about the Zaporizhzhia direction. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of very interesting updates. According to information we have, the Ukrainians announced evacuation. The Ukrainians announced evacuation of several settlements in this direction. And one of the most important settlements that will be evacuated is the settlement of Malokaterinivka. I would like to remind you that these days the Russians are advancing in the area of Stepnogorsk, and it seems that according to different geolocations and according to the situation that the Russians managed to establish complete FPV drone control over the territory, most likely in coming days the Russians will be able to take under complete control all these settlements and villages, almost till the south, to the south of the settlements of Grigorovka, Veselyanka. So all these territories most likely would be captured by Russians, and then of course they will continue advancing further. So that is why the Ukrainians announced the evacuation of Malokaterinivka with the purpose to bring additional reinforcements and reserves exactly in this area, with the purpose to stabilize the situation and not allow the Russians to move further towards the city of Zaporizhzhia. Because if Russians are able to capture Malokaterinivka, this means that the Russians enters the entire Zaporizhzhia agglomeration. Because as you can see, this is the city of Zaporizhzhia, then we see no gap, and the city of Balabina starts, then again no gap, and the settlement of Kushuhum starts, then again no gap, and the city of Malokaterinivka starts. So basically, if Russians enter Malokaterinivka, this is something like the Russians entered the city of Zaporizhzhia itself, so which obviously is going to be a very huge media loss for Zelenskyy. Now let's discuss the situation on the eastern Zaporizhzhia flank, where the Russians continue their offensive operation. Just yesterday, the pro-Russian sources reported that as a result of clashes, the armed forces of the Russian Federation managed to secure the settlement of Novouspienovskaya. Based on this video and based on the report of the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation and based on the report published by different pro-Ukrainian sources, we adjusted the map between 10th and the 11th of November. And this morning, on the 12th of November of 2025, we got additional clarifications of the situation, and according to information, the Russians managed to establish complete control over this dense network of the fortifications between the settlement of Yablukova and Novouspienovska. So all these trenches were captured by Russians, which means that currently Russians have a very powerful foothold and they can move further in the western direction. Furthermore, according to information we have, the Russians improved their position significantly in the area of the settlement of Velika Mikhailovka. During the previous 12 hours, we adjusted the map according to the updates that were reported by different neutral mappers. The Russians are about to establish complete control over the territory, and most likely in coming days, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm this. But one thing is clear, that the Russians attacked the village of Aristopol with the purpose to cross the river of Volcha and to secure the settlement of Velika Mikhailovka as well. So this is the primary task for the armed forces of the Russian Federation, to capture Velika Mikhailovka and then to move further in the northern direction, deep inside of the Dnipropetrovsk region. The Russians control the situation in this area. In this video, we can see, for example, how Russians were bombing positions and temporary deployment points of the armed forces of Ukraine with FABs. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the city of Pokrovsk and inside of the Pokrovsk agglomeration. So this is the map by the end of the 12th of November of 2025, and this is the map by the end of the 11th of November. As you can see, we have huge changes. I would like to remind you that just yesterday we saw this video when dozens or maybe hundreds of Russians were entering the city of Pokrovsk without any resistance from the Ukrainian side, under the protection and under the cover of fog, of the Pokrovsk fog. And today we got report that the Russians improved their positions along the perimeter of the city of Pokrovsk. The sources are saying, mainly pro-Russian sources are saying, that the armed forces of the Russian Federation managed to improve their positions in the western part of the settlement of Sukhoy Yar. So the Russians continue advancing in this direction, and most likely in coming days the settlement would be secured completely. Furthermore, according to pro-Russian sources, the armed forces of the Russian Federation improved their positions in the area between the city of Pokrovsk and the city of Mirnograd. Currently, the clash is taking place for this dense network of the fortifications. Furthermore, the Russians improved their positions in the northern and in the western parts of the city of Pokrovsk. As for the western parts, we see that the Russians began advancing along three lines in the northern direction with the purpose to outflank the settlement of Grishina from the south and from the southwest. As for the northern part of the city of Pokrovsk, the Russians are about to finish the battle for the northern city limits, and with this, the Russians will most likely, after the end of this battle, the Russians most likely will announce that they managed to establish complete control over the city of Pokrovsk. And this is the video that came to us from the central part of the city. Here we can see that the city of Pokrovsk was almost reduced to ruins, but there are lots of buildings that weren't damaged, and obviously in time people will be able to return to these houses, to these constructions. So anyway, time will tell. And in this video we can see the church in the central part of the city that wasn't damaged at all. So this is a very important thing that shows what's the Russians and who are the Russians and who are the Ukrainians. Despite the clashes, despite all this violence, we see that they still have probably belief and faith, and I still think that maybe the church can unite them. Anyway, let's wait and see. Furthermore, the city of Mirnograd, during the previous 24 hours, we received lots of very interesting updates and very important videos. Here we can see how Russians attacked, and probably they attacked with this territory with FAB, but most likely there was something like ammo depot, and as a result of secondary detonation, as you can see, almost the entire micro district was reduced to ruins. I would like to remind you that yesterday the Russians were dropping lists, some papers suggesting Ukrainians to surrender exactly from this micro district, and probably this attack with FAB was something like a final argument to the armed forces of Ukraine, and most likely after this attack the Ukrainians surrender, at least according to different sources. The Ukrainians from their side continue counterattacks in the area of the settlement of Rodinska and in the area of the settlement of Fedorovka-Suhetskaya. As you can see, during the previous night, small changes were recorded in Ukrainian favor. The Russians were forced to fall back. Ukrainians are trying to outflank and to encircle Russian positions on the territory of the Krasnolimanskaya mine. So as you can see, the Ukrainians still believe that they are able to unblock the city of Mirnograd from the north, to recapture these positions, and with this to create a corridor for evacuation for the contingent of the armed forces of Ukraine. So the Russians, of course, see this situation, and most likely the Russians will try to do everything they can with the purpose not to allow the Ukrainians to do this. As for the Konstantinovka direction, during the previous 12 hours, several neutral mappers and pro-Western resources reported that the Russians began advancing along the northern bank of the Kliban-Bytskaya water reservoir. The Russians managed to secure these 3 lines, and most likely the Russians will try to finish the battle for this territory as soon as possible. This will open the way and the road to attack further in the northern direction to answer the city of Konstantinovka from the southwest. So it seems that the battle for this city is going to start also very, very soon. As for the Kupiansk direction, during the previous 12 hours, we haven't received almost anything. The only important thing is that yesterday, according to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, the entire eastern part of the city of Kupiansk was secured. Today we got several videos how Russians were attacking and destroying vehicles of the armed forces of Ukraine on the way further in the southern direction towards the settlement of Kupiansk-Uzlavoy. We believe and we expect that today the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will provide us additional details about the situation in this area. And we believe that in coming days, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will also publish the video with dozens of flags raised across the eastern and the western parts of the city of Kupiansk, because now it is very important to confirm Russian control over these territories, not just by report, but also with the video of objective control. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.